Consider, according to Indiana Department of Revenue, sales tax in the state of Indiana increased from 2% in 1963 to 4% in May 2073. To the average consumer, this may look like a 2% increase because the sales tax increased from 2 to 4. But is this really a 2% change? A 2% increase implies that the new amount is 2% more than the previous amount relative to the old amount. In other words, the new amount should be 102% of the old amount. So the old amount is 2. So what is 100% of 2? Well, recall that 102% is the same as 1.02 of means to multiply. So what is 1.02 times 2? Well, that answer is 2.04. So for this to be a 2% increase in May of 1973, it should have been 2.04, not 4%. So no, this is not a 2% increase. Let's calculate the absolute change. Okay, so again, remember that in April, it was 2%. No, I lied. From April to May, time out. Okay, well, I don't know where April is, so we're going to talk about 1963, because that's the information we have. So we're going to calculate the absolute change in sales tax from the 1963 amount to the May of 1973. Now, when you think about this, in 1963 it was 2%, in 1973 it was 4%. Remember that absolute change is new minus old. Well, new in this case will be the 4, and 2 will be old. So I will take 4 minus 2, and my absolute change is 2. And we're going to call this percentage points. So you notice how I didn't call them percent. It's not a 2% change, it's a 2 percentage point change. It went from 2% to 4%. That is a 2 percentage point change, right? It went up by 2 percentage points. That's not the same as 2%. So that's why we kind of throw the word points on the end. Now let's talk about the relative change from 1963 to 1973. Remember that relative change is new minus old divided by old. So if, remember this again was 2, and this one was, oops, that is new, that's a true statement. That one was 4. So I'm going to take 4 minus 2 divided by 2, and 2 over 2 is 1. Change that to a percent, and that's 100%. So the relative change in this time period was a 100% change. I mean, it doubled, right? It went from 2 to 4. That's doubling. If you double something, that's a 100% increase. So the relative change was a 100% increase from 63 to 73. Okay, now it jumped again in January of 83, and this time to 5%. So recall that in 73 it was 4, and now in 83 it's 5. So percent increase is talking about relative change. So new minus old divided by old. So we will take 5 minus 4 divided by 4. So 1/4 is 25% increase. And I know it's an increase because this is positive. So you have a 25% increase from 73 to 83. What was the percent increase? Again, we're asking for relative change. Well, in 63 it was 2, in 83 it was 5. So I'm going to take new minus old divided by old. So new minus old divided by old. 3 divided by 2 is 1.5. If I change that to a percent, I'm at 150% increase. Again, I know it's an increase because it's positive. Is this the same number you would get if you added the relative change from numbers 3 and 4? And that answer is no. In 3, we had a 100% increase. In 4, we had a 25% increase. If you put those together, you get 125%, and the answer that we just had was 150%. The reason is because of what you're dividing by. In number 3, we divided by 2. In number 4, we divided by 4. Right? You are dividing by different numbers, which makes inconsistent mathematics, so you can't just add them together. Relative change is not additive. In number 7, sales tax increased again in 2002 by 20%. So here, 20% is the relative change. Now, we know that in 1983 it was 5, and we're trying to figure out what was it in 2002. So remember, relative change is new minus old divided by old. Well, let's fill in what we know. The relative change is 20%. That's 0.2. The new value, we don't know, but we can subtract the old, and we're dividing by the old. Now, the equal sign splits this up evenly. If I want to get rid of the denominator, I multiply both sides by 5. because that's like multiplying by 5 over 1, and our fraction reduces. So I'm left with x minus 5, and 5 times 0.2 is 1. I add 5 to both sides, and I have an x value of 6. So the sales tax rate in 2002 was 6%. The sales tax rate, 6%. In number 8, what was the absolute change from 83 to 2002? Well, we just found this to be 6. 83 was 5. Absolute change is new minus old. So 6 minus 5 is 1 percentage point increase. That's the change from 83 to 02. And the last problem, what was the total change from 63 to 2002? Remember, in 63 it was 2, 2002 it was 6. Okay, so absolute change, new minus old equals 4 percentage point increase. Right, I went from 2 to 6. It's 4 percentage point increase. Now, relative change is new minus old divided by old. So 4 divided by 2 is 2. Change it to a percent. We had a 200% increase from 1963 to 2002. And that is absolute and relative change.